All right, I backed up. I know this is video 2 for binomial expansion. I backed up to the example. I just wanted to again point out this minus goes with the 1/3. So even though this is just the generic expansion using the 1, 5, 10, 10, 5, 1 and putting the a's and the b's with all their powers, notice b is negative 1/3. So every time it plops in here, then that negative goes with it, and that's why the second term is negative. And in this case, we didn't have any of those weird exponents on the bottom because there's no x on this one. There's only an x on the front, so it's the only x hitting exponents. So there was no x on the back term that ended up in the bottom to cancel them. So this just looks more like a normal 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 compared to the other example. So you do have to be prepared for either of those though, because they do like to throw both of them at you. So our next example is asking us, or giving us the first two terms of an expansion. So this dot 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 means it just keeps on going. Obviously, this is an expansion of a third power. So I do know in that third row of Pascal's triangle, my coefficients would be 1, 3, 3, and 1. So I know of all the four terms, these would be the automatic coefficient drop-ins. So it wants us to find a and b. So if I'm expanding this thing, I'm just going to kind of generically write, well, that would be 1a cubed plus 3a squared b plus 3ab squared plus 1, no more a, b cubed. And so what they've done is they've given us the first term, so this guy has to equal this. So I'm going to switch colors to do this one, which means that a cubed has to equal 8, because there's nothing else going on that I know of in terms of variables, because there's no variables in this one, so there's no variable in the term in my first term a here. So in this case I do know a because the cube root of 8 is 2. So I do know a is 2, so I've already found a equals 2. Now I have to find what b is, so I'm going to switch gears and go to this second term because I also know the value of the second term is 12e to the x. Don't get freaked out that there's an e to the x. It just means it's in here and it's okay. We are going to expect some trigs and some e's, some ln's to show up from time to time. So what I already know is that a is 2, so I can put that in right there for a, and which means that this blue circle is going to be 3. I know a is 2, 2 squared, come on, b, and that has to equal 12e to the x. So it's really not that horrible because 2 squared is 4, and 3 times 4 is 12. So this is 12b equals 12e to the x. So that means that b, because if I divide both sides by 12, has to be e to the x. So I've found a and b. And again, just to point out, because you guys recently took a mock exam, if it asks you to find a and b, it specifically expects you to list what a equals and what b equals so that they can identify you found the answer. Now it says hence, and now hence typically means take what you already know and use it to finish the job. So we're going to finish this job by finding these two terms right here, because now I know what a and b are. So down here I can finish the job. I have 3, a is 2, b is e to the x, so I'm going to put that in parentheses because that has to get squared, plus 1, there is no more a, and I have b, which is e to the x, is going to get cubed. So finishing the job, the remaining two terms would be 6e, and here's a little power to a power means I multiply, so that's e to the 2x, plus power to a power means I can multiply e to the 3x. Come on, x. So those are my remaining two terms answering this question. And as always, I'm sure you imagine, a fantastic opportunity for you to try one. So again, notice that this is to the 4th instead of to the 3rd. So if you don't remember, you might want to look back at your triangle. For the 4th row, the values are 1, 4, 6, 4, and 1. Oh my gosh, that's a 4. Apologize for this. Sometimes this does not write as well as me. Or actually, I shouldn't say that. I always write this poorly. All right, 14641. I believe those are the coefficients for the fourth row. So that should help you. Pause video, give this thing a go. Video's on pause because you've already done it, and now you're going to check, and that's what you should have gotten. So again, same idea. You're setting a to the fourth, which is your first term, has to equal this first thing here. And so if you take a fourth root, a would be e to the x. Notice there's a minus sign. That's a very good sign that b is going to be negative. And indeed, that's what happens. And then this is a copy and complete. So that's where the 6 comes from, because that was what I had written up there as your coefficient. And hopefully that helps explain everything. Notice how b down here was, again, putting an e to the x in the bottom. So again, if any of this doesn't make sense as you work through it and see where everything's getting plopped in and solved, you can always email me and I'll try to explain a little bit. So we are going to move on to example 4. This is another question they love to ask. They want the coefficient, which is just the number in, oh boy, front. In front of this particular term from this expansion. So I need to figure out what this coefficient would be out in front of a cubed b squared if this is what I'm expanding. So if I'm not really sure where this lands in the middle of the process, then I'm going to go ahead and take my time and expand the 5 all the way out. So I do know that the Pascal coefficients are 1, 5, 10, 10, 5, and 1. But there's also a 3 in here. And that 3 is going to hit powers, and so that actual coefficient in front is going to be taken into consideration that this 3 is having powers applied to it as well. So I'm just going to expand this as I go until I find this place in the expansion. Next lesson we'll kind of learn a shortcut way to specifically jump here, but right now I don't have that. So I'm going to go up here, I'm going to pull this value 1, and I'm going to put 3a, because that's my a value. Even though this, I can put any letters in here I want, this whole thing is what is in the front, so that whole thing gets my 5th power to start. Plus, I pull in the Pascal's triangle 5, 3a, that term in front, whatever it is, now drops a power, and this b picks up a power. Again, I'm only writing that 1 so you see that these are always going to add up to the 5 right here. Now I'm going to pause because this would give me a to the excuse me, a to the 4th, b to the 1st. I don't want that one, so I don't care about either of these terms. I'm just going to keep going. Then I go to the 10 as my coefficient. The first term, 3a, is now going to drop from a 4 to a 3 because I'm reducing by 1. And my term back here, whatever it is going to pick up another power. Again, these add up to 5. And now when I look, that would give me a cubed b squared. So this is the one I want right here. So I'm not going to finish this expansion. I don't need anything else. I need this one because my powers match my variables. I just got to figure out what all these numbers would be in the front. So I'm just going to take a quick pause. There's my 10 times this whole thing gets cubed. So this 3 gets cubed, and that's the part people seem to forget. A gets cubed. B has a square on it. So there's my a squared b, or a cubed b squared matchup. Now 3 cubed is 27. 27 times 10 is 270. And so if I'm not careful and I write this, I haven't really answered the question because the question asked for the coefficient. This is the final coefficient in front of the a cubed b squared. So my actual answer should be just 270. And I'm excited because that wasn't too bad. And you are now going to obviously have an opportunity to try this. Again, you're expanding the 6th, so you might want to take a second, look back to Pascal's triangle and jot down the terms from the 6th row so you know kind of what to start. And this one's going to be a little trickier because this whole thing is your A and this whole thing is your B. So you're going to have 2's getting powers raised to them and 3's getting powers raised to them. And at the end you want it to be whatever sits in front of a cubed, b cubed. Take a second, pause the video, try this. All right, your second's up. Actually, hopefully it took you more than a second. But here is what your answer should have been. Again, this is showing you that this is your A, and this is your B. And so when you put that A, the whole thing is going to get cubed, and the whole B term is going to get cubed. And so 2 cubed is 8, there it is. 3 cubed is 27, there it is. So to get your final coefficient, you need to take all 3 of these numbers and multiply them together. And notice that the answer is over here just as a number. So on these, you got to be careful because it could ask for the term, and that wants this whole business. Or if it asks for the coefficient, it just wants this number in front. So you do have to be a little bit cautious on what you're doing. I think that's the end of this particular page of notes. So I would urge you to practice. And again, email me any questions, or you can always make comments in Google Classroom also, and the whole class can see them. All right, end of story.